Okay, welcome to Free Association. I wanted to comment just for a few moments on the issue of Nigel Farage's interactions with Coutts Bank and the Natwest, and obviously this all began because he was removed from Coutts. His banking facilities were removed from Coutts based on their perception of his political stance, which is supporting Brexit and being a political leader or whatever, makes him at risk of reputational damage or blackmail or money laundering or whatever. So this story's been rumbling on for about a month now. It started really slowly, and when he was debanked, he challenged the decision, but he didn't name the bank. And then it slowly built up from being a Nigel Farage story to being a free speech story. And then it's become a data protection story when the head of the bank, I think it was the head of Natwest, one of the directors of Natwest, briefed the BBC about what had happened or implied that certain things had happened when actually they hadn't, and the decision-making process had been a different route. So Nigel Farage has slowly but surely moved up the food chain from Coutts to Natwest, and the director involved has now resigned from the board of, or was forced to resign from the board of Natwest due to pressure, political pressure mainly, because Natwest is partly owned by the British government. It was taken into public ownership in 2008 when the big banking crisis happened, when the big financial crisis happened, and then it's slowly been passed back to the private sector since then. But there's still 38% that's publicly owned. So Farage is gunning for the entire board of directors of the NatWest Bank now, because they supported the woman who briefed against him and said she could stay on when that became public. So she's now gone. I've forgotten her name, but he's gunning for the people who supported her and wanted her to carry on. Understandably, because his data protection has been breached, his data has been passed or implied to the BBC, and it's just not acceptable. There's a responsibility, there's a banking client responsibility that you don't disclose data protection related stuff, anything personal to the client. You just don't do it. I've worked in call centers where we'll be sacked on the spot for disclosing personal information about clients, and it's taken very, very seriously. It's an automatic. It's gross misconduct. It's an automatic dismissal. You don't really get very much of an appeals process if they've got evidence that you've disclosed private information of one customer to another customer or to other people outside. Then that's gross misconduct. It's a breach of data protection, and you're just walked off the premises basically. So why shouldn't that happen at director level, at board member level? That's what I want to know. If that's what I have to deal with in a call center, then people who are on a board of directors should have to deal with this. It's the same legislation. It's the same legal requirement for confidentiality. So why is it that this woman who's breached data protection rules and disclosed information to the BBC isn't held to the same standard that I'm held to when I'm working in a call centre? there's obviously the British establishment closed ranks and tried to protect one of their own, and it hasn't worked. Nigel Farage has gone from gunning for the particular person who created the leak to gunning for the people who protected the person who created the leak. And he's got a platform, and he's got a powerful group of people behind him somewhere down the line, and he's been backed by, very confident in what he does. He's got backing. He knows he's got a track record. He knows he can do whatever he wants to do, and he'll do it. So it's only a matter of time now before other people on the Natwest board start to resign or start to move on to other companies that aren't controversial, because Natwest has become the story now. Coutts was the story. Nigel Farage was the story initially, then Coutts, then the Natwest, and it's become a political story. So it involves members of parliament and members of the government now. All right, so they should really resign, and systems need to be in place to make sure that nobody ever does this again. So that's my opinion, is that whatever rules I'm forced to follow, the British establishment has to follow the same rules. If you don't want to follow the rules, don't put the law in place for everybody else. Should be the same law for everybody. That's the way that I feel about it. And that's pretty much what I want to say. So thanks for watching. I'll be back in about an hour.